him for the quote of the day. Yep. All right, let's do this. Y'all ready?
Okay, ready?
Let's spread some value. Share the light to people. Here we go.
Okay. Hi friends, welcome to Shine with Maria Elena Cortez and Mark Sedgwick. Let's welcome Mark and our special guest,
William Treston.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, so the topic of today is just about how to win the battle within, right? So we all have this internal battle, not only an external battle of, you have to be able to defend yourself from the enemies in the outer world, yes. Right? In the outer world, in the physical world, but also the mental enemies and demons or whatever you want to call them that we all have, that we all battle with, right? We all have struggles that we go with, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, William, can you give us the quote of the day?
The quote of the day, guys, is Romans 12:21. Do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good.
And that is such a beautiful quote because that is exactly what we want to do. And, a lot of people, they look for books, they look for videos, and sometimes it's right there in the Bible. They have to just pick it up and read it. So thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful quote. I know William is a defense expert.
Self-defense expert.
Self-defense expert. And he is going to teach a class to some women today. And we want to say thank you so much for giving your time.
Oh, absolutely.
I love all the gadgets and things that you have here in your studio. So
all the tools.
Yeah.
And
we're going to run through a lot of really awesome drills today, guys. We're going to put on the high gear suit. We're going to pressure test things to make sure that they work. You guys are getting the best training possible. And we're also going to go over situational awareness and how when when you're talking about your inner demons, when the spiritual gets manifested into the physical, that's when the need for self-defense arises.
Absolutely. I love that. And something just ran by my mind. Just because I always like to find connections and little keys for success and happiness and fulfillment, and obviously, like we were talking about, God is one of them, or just a spiritual type, whatever that means to you, right? But just some like this headgear, right? Like these gloves, they're to protect, right? We can also think about the success principles and ways to defend our mentality, not just the physicality, right?
Absolutely.
So little keys and tools. That's why I'm on the search so hard to figure out all these success tips and habits and keys, right? So maybe we can share some of ours, right? Maybe you can start and share one of the tactics or techniques or defense mechanisms that helped you in your process to fighting those inner battles.
One of the things that I would say that really kind of helped me was to not take things so seriously. I think we have a habit in our mind sometimes to overthink things and make situations a lot bigger than they actually are. As they say, 90% of what you worry about doesn't even happen. But the other thing too is that it's also discerning what we also is this going to be a really big issue? Some things are. You look at some major decisions in life that you have, they need to be thought out.
Absolutely.
However, if you're for example, if you're going to a dance or you're going out with friends, what you're wearing that night is not exactly of key importance in the long-term scheme of things.
So let me throw something in there. So I heard a quote by a man named Jim Rohn. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Very wise man. He's passed away now, but he said, don't spend major time on minor things, right? And I think that's such a huge point to what you're saying, right? Don't spend such major time on such minuscule things like the way you look, right? Of course, it's the physical, right?
You want to be presentable, but at the same time, you don't want to It's kind of like when you have social media with those people that take over their lives, and social media then becomes more of a poison.
Yes.
It does a lot more harm than it does good because you're comparing yourself to the basic, the most perfect things that they can possibly put up there. When in reality, that's probably not the case.
Yeah, it's just the highlights, right?
I really agree with you. Unfortunately, most people, the reason nowadays, social media is so big. I mean, we all have our phones. We're constantly looking at it. But I think one of the things or the reasons why people keep looking at their phones is because they either don't have a lot going on in their lives, so they're choosing the phone to entertain them or the
distract them
to find out what their friends are doing instead of them going out and doing something. So I think sometimes it's just because people just don't want to spend their time wisely. That's part of it. But for me personally, I'm constantly battling with that particular problem because I do want to keep my phone with me. I want to wake up and immediately grab the phone. So
Who texted me on Facebook today, or what's going on today?
Yes. So those are the things. That's a battle within me that I'm like, okay, I want to leave that phone down. I don't have to keep it with me 24/7. You know, it's a great new tool that we use to communicate, but we don't have to depend on it for every little thing. And what's happening is people are depending on this device to look for happiness.
Absolutely.
And that's when things start to crumble and it becomes a mess.
Yes.
So I want to invite everybody to, learn a new hobby. I just came from a cooking class. I joined some friends. I learned how to make a new dish. And I know that, all day I was working.
Yeah.
But I found in my busy schedule some time for me to learn something new.
Yeah.
And I could have just gone to look for a recipe again and be buried on this phone, but I chose to take action and do something. And then guess what? I met new friends. I got to hang out with new people. Got some really cool energy. I was so excited to be here with you guys after that. I was stinky because I smell like food.
Yeah.
But it's those are the things that we are not practicing enough.
Discipline.
And I really want to invite everybody to stop, being on their phone so much.
Yes.
That's a battle that we are all facing right now.
Yes. So I think your key that you just shared is have the discipline to not use this as to feed your addiction or to feed that lack of fulfillment and some real mission and some real purpose, right? Use it as a tool.
It's not an addiction.
It can be for sure.
That going to a cooking class, I think, is
no,
new.
not that. No, the addiction of the cell phone.
Oh, the phone.
Yeah, no, not the addiction of finding a new hobby or passion. No, not that. That's a good addiction, if anything.
Okay.
That's a good obsession to be on the search, right? I think there's, like Conor McGregor says, there's good obsessions, right? He's obsessed with the mixed martial arts. He loves that, right? He's literally obsessed. He wants to go train. Right? But that's a positive. It can be turned into a positive thing.
But it can also be a negative.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of, if you look at social media, just kind of carrying that point further, kind of just even taking things from my own personal life, is that social media can actually really lead to causes of depression. It can really be damaging from that aspect. And, I think what a lot of us do, and some people fill it with social media, people will fill it with alcohol, they'll fill it with drugs, they'll fill it with a lot of different things, but whatever you choose, the thing is that you kind of seem like you're almost slave to whatever that is.
For sure.
And it wasn't until my second year of college I really kind of had more of like not an epiphany yet, but it was one of those things that I could tell there were people around me that they had something that I didn't. And the thing was, they all had a real relationship with Christ. And I remember I would go through my classes and I would sit there and I'd be like, I don't know what they have, but it doesn't matter. It trumped everything. And they didn't care about social media. They didn't care about going and partying with friends. They didn't care about a lot of the stuff that especially young people really care about. They want to go out to the club to party. They want the coolest Instagram picture or Facebook post. But what it is really kind of chipping away from what's going on inside you. It actually makes you more depressed. And even though we're more connected than ever, why is it so many people can't even carry on a conversation? Even you go into the modern dating world, I have tons of friends that are out there, and they could be the most attractive, successful person, but finding somebody is incredibly hard.
Because maybe they didn't have the practice, because they were so locked in to those materialistic things, right? Absolutely.
But
you may not be stuck on your phone, and maybe you're like, well, that's not for me. What we want to also invite everyone who is maybe just feeling a little down because you have these big goals, big dreams, and you're just afraid to go to the next level, the next step, because your mini you inside, or
the inner resistance, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah, it's just telling us, no, you're not good enough, or you're not ready. Oh, you got to make this amount of money.
Yep.
Even for us, when we started the podcast, we were like debating, okay, do we have the right camera? Do we have the right tools? We made some mistakes, but we took some courage and we did it, right?
We didn't let the little devil on our shoulder.
Struggling. We don't have the top of the top technology, but we do this with love in our hearts and with passion, and that's what people see.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, I think that's what's more important. I'm not afraid of that anymore. I'm not afraid Is the camera going to break down? No. Now we have 2 backups. You know, we have little things that, okay, well, the mic didn't work the first time. We'll record it. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm not stressing over all of these little minute things that used to worry me. And I was like, no, I'll never have a video podcast. I'm not ready. I'm not rich. I'm not this and that. All the excuses that we tell ourselves. So that's another thing I want to invite everybody to, you know, stop and think and plan big. And then and get started, which even if it's something small. You started your business.
But don't be afraid to fail forward either. Don't be afraid of that, because that's what you're boiling it down to. It's that fear of success. What happens if I get there and it starts taking off and I can't handle it? Or it might be something in fact like I'm not good enough, like you were saying. But you know, we'll tell ourselves all kinds of non-truths just to make, because we're so used to the norm. Getting out of our norms, I think, as human beings is kind of scary, but at the same time, for growth, it's necessary. I call people like, you know, the guy that wears like his high school leather jacket like 10, 15 years out of high school. I call people like that. I call them like they're stuck in time. You know, they haven't grown personally, and I think to grow personally, you have to take risks.
Got to change the page. Next chapter, right? Next chapter.
Exactly. You can't. Whether it's maybe it could be a bad breakup you're going through. It could be a business. It could be
a death in the family.
Yeah. When I first started my business, it absolutely. We're talking about. I know we were talking about social media, but not being afraid to fail forward.
Yes.
You know, and to take those risks. So, I mean, if you've got a new business or something that you want to start, you know, obviously pray about it. You don't want to just jump into every new idea that you see. Yeah. But at the same time, you want to sit there, and if you feel like you've kind of learned the industry beforehand, you know, my dad gave me a really good piece of advice. He goes, if you're going to go out and start your own business, he goes, serve that industry first. And that's why I think for me, a little more confident going into the self-defense industry, which I have 2 companies now. I have Tactical Defense and I have Citizens Training Group with my business partner. But I felt more confident because I have close to 20 years of experience. You know, everything. And I've studied a lot of different martial arts, and I've taught I've taught everybody from Air Force and Army personnel all the way down to kids as young as 3 and 4. Yeah. And so going out on my own, as scary as it was, I think it gave me a little bit more confidence because I took my dad's advice to heart, is that I served my time in the industry, I learned it first, and then I made it work for me.
Nice. So I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you love mixed martial arts before you jumped into it?
I mean, I always had a love for it, even since I started when I was 11 years old under my first instructor, Rick Short. Yeah. Awesome Christian, really. He's out of the martial arts industry now, but he's still phenomenal. He's one of the best guys that I know. But he taught me a lot, and I always wanted to grow. I always wanted to learn more. Even when I was a kid, it was like I was a sponge. And I still don't consider myself like a grade A or master instructor or anything, because I consider myself a student. Yeah. I'm always learning. And if I can find something to better prepare my students, and my teaching has evolved over the years, things that I might have taught a few years ago, I might have started changing because I've either learned something or picked up something. And that's kind of martial arts. You build a foundation, and then you add and you pick things out that works under pressure test. You'll hear me say that a lot because you want to make sure they work. There's too many instructors and stuff out there that are trying to teach martial arts, you know, that really, as much as I said, they have no idea what they're doing. They clearly have no training or background, and they do it all under this reality-based self-defense like type of deal, but they never pressure test anything. And they actually discourage students from pressure testing.
So what is pressure testing?
So we do that. It's under stress and adrenaline. So like one of the things that we're going to do later is I'm going to take this piece of equipment. It's part of a high gear suit. And this actually will allow them, to hit the mask as hard as they want. And my face will still, like, I'll be protected.
It's a protector. You know, it almost makes me wish that we could all have one of these, but inside our brain, to protect our brain inside from evil and
those are our tools, right? That we're kind of discussing right now, right? And what I was picking up from what you were saying is just the fact of just always having like that love. You know, you kind of always had that passion for it, right? Mm-hmm. You always had that in you, right? And that's kind of like to help you win that battle from within. You have to kind of have like,
because you're going to get hit. And you're going to get hit hard.
Yes.
I guarantee whether it's a business or whatever you are, you have to be able to take the hits that not only life, but other things that you just don't see coming that are going to happen. Like I remember, for example, I lost $1,800 worth of business when I first started. And this was actually at a Christian institution, a Christian high school, all because I said at the very last slide that to put God first in everything you do. And even our mission statement, it says we are a Christian, reality-based, self-defense company. So it's right there in the name. And I made, no bones about it. And they all knew that that's the perspective that I like to teach. I'm not saying that my students have to be Christian. I'm not saying that at all. We encourage everybody of whatever faith. Just don't be surprised if I start talking about it.
Yeah. Because that has fulfilled you, right? And whatever that is for you, to just chase that fulfillment, right? I think that's something else, is to win that battle, you have to be willing to chase, right? You have to be willing, even in that dark spot, to be like, man, this sucks, man. I need to put this phone down. I need to be disciplined. I need to go chase what I love.
Any business owner will tell you there are going to be tons of times where you do not want to do certain things.
Yes.
But if you don't do that, the ball falls back on you and then nothing gets done. And you're actually pushing your progress that much farther back. So discipline is extremely important.
We're battling with that right now. Yeah, we started a business beautifying schools in the city.
Okay.
And there are times where we're like, wow, this is not easy.
This is hard.
It's very hard.
Should we pursue this? Is this a worthy cause? Is it really worth the hours of sitting there and painting for all those hours? Well, for me, it is, because there's a mission tied to it, right? If you have a mission that is bigger than you, whether you believe in God and you believe serving Him, that's a big mission. Whether that's serving the people around you because you love them and you want to provide for your family, right? That's a bigger mission than you. So that will carry you through and help you to win that battle.
Your why has got to be stronger than whatever it is that's telling you no.
Absolutely.
Basically what it is. And for me, nothing fulfilled me. No, you're fine. Nothing fulfilled me more than when I became Christian. And so when I was talking about earlier, I didn't know, what these other people had. When I became Christian, it's like He gave me a mission. He gave me a purpose. And that's actually one of the reasons why I opened Tactical Defense, was the fact of the matter that I had a skill set that I had acquired of close to 20 years. And if I could share that, because as you know, the world's becoming increasingly more dangerous as time goes on, if I can help some people, even if it's just one person. And I can't tell you how awesome it is that we have testimonials where, whether it's guys or girls that'll come to me like, thank you so much for showing me. Because that's what you fight as an instructor. You literally fight of like, please get training before something happens, versus a lot of students come after the fact, after a crisis or something's already happened.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I think that's another key, is just surrounding yourself. I mean, we've said it how many times on the podcast, just surrounding yourself with the right people. That'll help you win the battle within.
That was our first podcast, actually, about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yep, absolutely.
If you're surrounding yourself with Debbie Downers, you are going to become depressed real quick.
You will become the Debbie Downer, right?
And so with that takes me right into what I wanted to say. For me, also battling the times that I feel weak or that I feel sad or not enough energy to continue doing what I'm doing, whether it's a new business or going and presenting at a school, is I take a break and I go surround myself with friends, positive people that are gonna basically inject that fuel, that energy back, and bring me back to life.
Because it's contagious. It's absolutely contagious.
But if I go and I stay in bed and sit depressed and I'm scared or nervous and I sit and just write down, all the things that I shouldn't be doing here, then it's not going to work. But if I sit and write maybe some of the positive things, and I go surround myself with good people that are going to give me that energy back, then it just flourishes and it makes things happen.
So, so what are you doing when we write it down? We're expressing our thoughts on the paper. We're almost reinforcing and reminding ourselves, oh, I got to fulfill that mission, or, that's also served and helped with the people that you surround yourself with, right? They'll be like the other day, I said, hey, Mom, let's keep our heads up. Let's continue to fight for the mission that we have in mind, right? The purpose that's bigger than us. Let's not procrastinate. Let's keep on fighting. I know times get tough, but let's keep on going. I try to be that reminder for you, and you were the reminder for me always, right?
So we got to help each other, family, also surrounding yourself with the right family. That also the right uncle or the right, maybe your mom or your dad may not be as excited about a project, but maybe you have an uncle or an aunt,
grandparent, a cousin,
or a grandparent that'd be like, is going to be like, yay, go ahead. it, you know.
Or friends,
and
of
supporting
course.
you and everything. But I like the word that you use right now,
Yeah.
not to be mediocre.
Mediocre?
I didn't say that. Which
Or was it the other?
you can do it. You can do it.
No,
What was
it's
it?
just maybe I wanted to say not to be mediocre.
Okay, yes.
Anything you do, you don't want it to be have done. You
Yes.
want to do it 100%.
That's another great point.
Exactly.
And I guess that's what I was getting from the message
From what I was trying to say,
told
yeah.
me a few days ago.
Yes, absolutely.
If you sit there and just say, oh, it's okay, I'm just gonna go teach the class, whatever comes out, or I'm just gonna go do this, whatever comes out, then it's mediocre stuff, and people are you're not gonna connect with anybody, and you're gonna be disappointed at yourself because you didn't do your best.
You didn't do your best.
So you always want
For
to
sure.
shine bright in everything you do. I'm
your
always
best.
saying that. Shine bright in everything you do because it matters to the people that love you.
Exactly.
And when you're doing the right things and you're doing it with passion and love in your heart, the right things would eventually just evolve and grow.
even as you would always tell me as a kid, you would always tell me, just do it with God in your heart, right?
Yeah.
That's another big thing. Do it because that passion's in there. Do it because, God is in your heart, because the right reasons, the right mission, the right motives, right? Absolutely.
Sorry.
Okay, well, no, we gotta get ready because he's customers. Your clients.
Yeah, but we got a class we're about
We
to
have
start.
a class, so as soon as he gets the car started, we're gonna share with you some of the moves of self-defense.
We'll go over some situational. We're gonna recap from last class, and then we're gonna go over even attacking from the ground. I'm gonna put the headgear on. Y'all are gonna get to hit me a lot, so y'all have a good class coming up.
So
let's get
absolutely,
started.
thanks for enjoying the podcast and sticking with us and listening to the conversation. Hopefully you picked up a couple of lessons that you can take along your journey. And William, I appreciate you.
Of course,
joining
always.
us.
Thank you again.
Absolutely.
And now let's put on our gloves and our headgear, whatever you need.
Exactly.
And watch the video and learn some really positive and powerful tips on how to defend yourself.
Enjoy.
Oh, I almost need you.
That's okay. Good. Good. There you go. Good job. Let's reset. And there was this elderly Asian woman that was there, and she goes, "Sir," she flagged me down. She goes, "Could you help me? I can't get the pump to start working." And I was like, okay, that's really fishy. Somebody can't even pump their own gas. This is obviously red flags are starting to go off. And I noticed when I was in the store, there was a guy that was kind of keeping his distance a little bit from me. Like he had followed me in, but it wasn't enough to make me think alarm bells, like, oh crap, I need to really think right now. Mm-hmm. And so as I started, I took maybe 1 or 2 steps toward her because I was like, maybe this one really is just, maybe she's got some mental stuff going on. I don't know. So I took maybe 1, 2 steps forward, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw this dude in a hoodie literally start going right to the front driver's side of my car. And I didn't have my gun on me. I didn't have my knife on me. All I had was a pen. And so I took the pen and I started closing the distance on the guy. And I was like, not today. The moment he saw me with this pen ready to strike him, his hand was inside of the door, and immediately he just takes his phone and he pretends that he walks away from the gas station. He had put that elderly woman there to distract me so he could go to the driver's side of my car and try to jack my car. Wow. So just kind of like a real world example and highlighting why situational awareness is important. Because even when you have those cues going off, there's still other things that might be there. And so even stuff like the body being bladed forward. Like this is a big one for knife attacks, for example. If you're going to knife somebody, you're not going to sit there and fight like this. Yeah. It's just like if you're a bouncer, you might fight like this. 9% of the time, they're going to have 1 foot forward. And if their body is really bladed, that means they're trying to conceal it on whatever side that it is. Because when you look at 80% of knife attacks, it's literally grabbing the shirt and trying to go right into the ribs with it. Really? And yeah, there's ways to get around it, but like I always tell people, especially if there's any kind of weapon involved, run. And in fact, any kind of self-defense scenario, if you can run, that's why I tell you, know your exits. Get out of there. Don't sit there and take that fight unless you have to, especially for women's self-defense. If you got 220-pound linebacker and 5'1", 90, 100-pound person, that's going to be a really hard fight, especially without any force multipliers. Government assistance. I couldn't find any job prospects. I was about to go back into the military, possibly Navy instead of Air Forces to go around. And then MW Steel was born with my now partner. And we've been doing that for about 4.5 years. And then about two two and a half years ago, I opened tactical defense because I felt like it's something that's what God was calling me to do. Is that, as much fun as that would have been to be like a pararescue, combat control, or some kind of, special forces guy, I felt that, God was calling me to do stuff more domestic. He said, this is where you're going to be better used because you can relate to the civilian side a lot better. And so I decided to open that, and it was right before then is when I got saved, actually. And I'll never forget it because I was at Hope City Church right here off Echo Lane. My friend Lisa dragged me out to go to that service. And when I got saved, I actually had I'd never felt the love of Christ before. And so I literally got really emotional, and I ran to my car at the time. I didn't want people to see me cry, and so when I got to the car, I literally bawled like a freaking baby for about 20 minutes. And then I felt kind of the joy of the Holy Spirit, and I never felt down. I was like on fire. I came back, and I remember my girlfriend at the time, who was not a very nice person. First thing she told me, because she was the first real Christian girl that I dated, she goes, man, your life's going to suck. It's going to be horrible. Your life, I'm going to have to distance myself from you for at least a couple weeks. I didn't even care. I was like, well, that sucks for you. And I went up and I grabbed my Airman's Bible, which is still the same Bible that I had. I actually carried it through my military all the way, and I still read it today. It's tattered and everything, but I still have it. My first instructor gave it to me right before I went in. And after I broke it off with her, I kind of went through kind of a phase of where I still, I'd gotten saved, but I was still struggling with, my old self. I was struggling with a lot of different things, everything from alcohol to pornography to just kind of, because I was so used to the way the world was. And that's kind of how, I guess being a Christian and non-Christian, it's hard to kind of separate those two, because I struggled with depression for many years. I saw, especially going through middle school and high school, I saw all kinds of psychiatrists, counselors, you name it. I even had one of the only friends at the time, she ended up taking her own life with a coat hanger when I was a freshman in high school. That hit pretty hard. But I struggled with depression a lot, and it wasn't anything that... Because, my parents gave me the best life that they possibly could, and they always tried to encourage me. They were always there for me. Anything I ever did or anything I wanted to, they were always there to support me. It was just kind of one of those things that I couldn't stand that person in the mirror across from me, to be frankly honest with you.
And why do you think that was so?
I think a lot of it was because I was trying to search for something that couldn't be found in the things of the world, whether it's... whether it was
short-term pleasure.
Yeah, whether it was because I did smoke a lot. I smoked, I didn't really smoke weed much. I may have tried a few times, but a lot of chewing tobacco. I smoked probably a pack a day when I was my first couple years in college. Drank so much. I had a 0.7 GPA my first semester at Kansas State. Wow. Let's see. And then, I also struggle with just, lust and everything else from that standpoint. And
partying and all that kind of stuff leaves you empty.
Yeah, it does. And it was kind of and then when I went to Concordia, it was the first time, because Concordia is kind of a private Lutheran college. But
all right, let's stop.
Yeah.
We got to start recording this.
I know, we got to start recording, but I'm glad
this is good though,
No, of course.
And it's funny because I think God always introduces us to the right people
at the right time.
At the right time. So I wanted to talk about the battle within, and I had no idea you had all this amazing story.
All that, the whole battle within. Actually, Shelby and I have talked about it multiple times about how I've struggled with depression. One of the things I still struggle with is I tend to be very hard on myself.
Starting this message, I think a huge thing that I'm starting to realize is that if you shy away from the big creepy guy, that is whenever they will win. They will have that. If you fall under the pressure of the situation, oh, he's going to get me, and then you freeze up, right? You have to fight that inner battle within yourself. Don't let the fear conquer, and don't let those bad guys get you. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Lift your spirit.